All right, being 4:30, we'll call meeting of Public Works to order. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Hey, agenda. Chad, do you have any changes?
No changes to the agenda.
Okay, call for a motion to
Move
accept.
to approve agenda.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Mr. Ben with his wastewater treatment plant updates.
Good afternoon.
Got public input on there, Mike.
Yep. Number 2, Mike.
Okay, public input.
Yep.
Do we have any public input?
Is there any public input
Public input, I'm sorry, what, the wastewater treatment?
on anything on the
anything.
agenda?
Oh, in general.
Okay, it's hard for me to see.
Oh. Yep.
But I just wondered, is Mayor Herder part of this conversation now? I don't know how this all works here.
The mayor is participating via Zoom tonight. So yes, he is here.
I just had some questions because in the forum at Familiar Grounds.
Actually, why don't you come up to the microphone? Otherwise, he won't be able to hear you. And typically, public input's not a answer a question thing. It's more of a just give the input.
And maybe somebody here knows that, but he had some concerns about the ATV, possible ATV trails. And I wondered what those concerns were and how he was going to address them.
Mayor Mark, did you get that?
He's
He needs to unmute.
Yeah, I got the question. My concern is, I guess I don't have any concern about being trails or not being trails. I was kind of following what everybody else had done. I've done some research that if you open up our roads to ATVs and UTVs, they have to follow and abide by state law, other than opening it up to trails or ATV routes. Then it opens it up to the DNR having right of ways as a route for ATV, UTVs, and then they significantly come in with the age group of 12 with safety card and stuff. I don't know 100% about all that stuff. Like I said, I was curious about that stuff. I have more input later when we get into that agenda.
Right, I'm sure you'll stay abreast to that. That's all the questions I had. I wanted to know what your concerns were. Thank you. Thanks.
I guess anything else from public?
Okay, then we'll proceed with wastewater treatment plant update. Ben, you're on.
All right. So I've pretty much finished getting all my budget information for 2021. In August, I will be bringing my budget for you guys to approve. Let's see. We're in the process of looking at our mercury remediation plan. I hope to have that within the next couple of months for you guys to look over.
Ben, can you give an update from the DNR what that's all about, the mercury thing?
Basically in 2009, the DNR came out and said that all municipalities have to come up with a plan to reduce the amount of mercury going into the receiving stream or the Wolf River in our case. So Louis, my boss before that, or before I started, did a little bit of work on that. And now for our permit that's going to be due in 2022, I have to provide a mercury reduction plan for the city for them to approve before the permit can go through. So basically, I went out to all the areas where we would have a hot spot, where I thought we would have a hot spot, and then did some testing. And then once we get all the testing in, we will contact those businesses that have higher than normal low-level mercury samples to see what they can do to reduce the amount of mercury that they're introducing into the system. So that will be done in the next couple months, I hope. The next thing is, last month I brought up to you the fact that we need to update our W3 system, which is basically the water that's going to go into the river that we utilize for cooling waters, cleaning, and that new step screen that we got for the high strength receiving station. I got a quote from Donahue and Associates for $54,040 to do the engineering for that. I have more than enough money in our current 2020 budget to do that. I was just wondering if I could get your blessing to go ahead with Donahue to do the initial engineering for the upgrade.
That doesn't have to go out for bids?
What's that?
That doesn't have to go out for bids?
Yes, it does. So what, and Ben, just kind of, I got the picture up on the screen. Just kind of give a quick explanation of what it's all about first.
Okay, so the brown line is our current process that we have. It's too small going from the green is actually 1.5 inch right now. And that's not providing enough water pressure and flow for building 41, which houses our new step screen or screen for the high strength waste receiving station. Without the water pressure, we can't properly clean the screen off to utilize for getting grease into the system. And that was one of the things that we were really banking on, getting a lot more grease to help out the ratepayers with, you know, bringing in more stuff from outside the city.
More revenue.
Yep.
For the most part.
So what they want to do is in building 75, which is where that little blue line is, we have a water line coming from our final clarifiers, which are the 110s that we use for building or a structure 150. We were going to tee off of that to grab the water, and that way we can fill our own sewer truck instead of using utilities. I think it's budgeted for like 13,000 a year for water that we use to clean the sewers that we wouldn't be using anymore. We clean a lot of stuff at the plant with our W3 existing line, which is in 105, but it doesn't produce the water flow or pressure that we really need. And it is starting to deteriorate quite a bit. So we were hoping that we would be able to abandon that and use the new system that would go in building 75. And down the list, they show where it would be set up.
So you're gonna replace the green pipe? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that, and we're gonna put a pumping system in 75. Chad, if you can scroll down a little bit. So this is building 75 with the existing pumps. So basically the new system would be that little green box. That would be the pump skid with 3 pumps to produce 100 gallons per minute at, I believe we can go up to 120 PSI. It also has a cleaning system because unfortunately in the summer we produce a lot of algae too. So we would need a system to remove the algae so it doesn't plug up other systems. And then because we're going to be cleaning out that line, we need our new sump pump. The sump pump is originally from 1987 and it is basically on its last legs. So we would need to update that as well.
So basically, like Ben said, I mean, we're trying to utilize the W3 water, the non-potable water that's the discharge water that before discharge, Ben can use this in the system. And like he said, right now, when we do sewer cleaning, we fill up with fresh water. We pay for that out of New Line Utilities, and we wouldn't have to use fresh water, paid fresh water to clean sewers. they could go over by Ben, and like Ben said, we could have a system that we could fill up the trucks, saving us money that way, in the system as well. But to get back to your question, the point is that we would do the engineering now so that we could have the engineering and bid packet done now, so we could advertise those bids right after the first of the year to get a good bid. But yes, we would have to bid this out. This is just the design work for all that.
We want a motion to hire Donahue and Associates to create design specifications and bid advertisements for W3 improvements at the wastewater treatment plant.
Yes.
Correct.
Make the motion. You made the
I make that motion.
second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded to have Donahue at the price of $54,040 to do the engineering to upgrade our system. Any other questions?
Then kind of go into, we would put this in next year's budget as a capital improvement. And what's the estimated cost right now? You're just approving the design and bid specifications. What's the estimated cost?
So originally they came out with $375,000 to do all that, but that was a very padded quote that they gave us because they need to dig into some more stuff. That's why we're going to have them do the engineering. So we're hoping that when they do more precise engineering on this, the costs will go down, and hopefully we'll get that number, well, hopefully fairly soon, so that we can get it into 2021's budget so we can do this. Like he was saying, get the bids out sometime in January so that when it gets to be nice out, we can get shovels in the ground right away and take care of it.
Okay, basically, we got a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Great, thank you. And the last thing basically is we cleaned out our digester to have the cover painted from when they did the construction. Some of it needs to be touched up, and because underneath the covers is a lot of methane, we needed to clean everything out so that when they make sparks, it doesn't blow up. So when we were cleaning it out, we noticed that some of the new epoxy coating that they put on our digester wall has basically flaked off and is cracking. Tuesday or Wednesday, the rep from Sherwin-Williams will be here to see what all is going on here and what changes need to be done. Hopefully it doesn't result in the whole cover has to come off again. Because from what I understand, when they rent that crane, it's $8,000 a day. It's not going to come out of our pockets, but the painting company would probably have to pay for that. And it would,
Warranty work.
yeah. Yeah, our warranty is good until May 1st of 2021.
What does that do to your schedule over there if that's the case?
That really kind of puts a damper on a lot of stuff that we want to do, because then we'll have to babysit that. We can't take in as much sludge and septic as we wanted through the new high strength receiving station, which kind of makes a little more smell down there like we wanted to get rid of. And yeah, just a whole domino effect on what we're going to do for the summer for cleaning. And unfortunately, one of our employees is going to be done at the end of this week, the new employee, Jim Coakley. So with only 2 guys down there, it's going to be kind of tough to do a lot of stuff that we normally do with 3, but we'll get through it.
Hopefully it's not as bad as you think.
Yeah, hopefully. Because when we were down inside the tank, I looked around and I didn't see any peeling or chipping. I think it's right up on top where the water level and the air kind of meet, and that fluctuates about 2 feet every day. So it seems to be in the area where sometimes it's underwater, sometimes it's not. So hopefully it's just a simple chisel that off, recoat it without having to take the cover off, and then we can get that back up online.
And Ben did point out there that we are losing one of our operators, so it's going to be putting a lot of pressure on Ben and Jared to fulfill all those duties and stuff like that. So Ben's going to be working on getting that filled in ASAP. But I think we've talked about that sometime down the road, we might want to look at, we really should look at maybe another operator down there, just because it gets to the point where we lose somebody. And this is a perfect example right now, the situation of we're the size of community that somebody comes out of college, gets a couple of years of experience, and away they go. So that puts a lot of pressure on Ben. If we continuously have that, having 2 operators down there is tight. That is tough.
Yeah, we tried it a couple of years ago. We lasted almost 3 years, but it really took a toll on Jared and I.
What's going on with hiring? Have you got any?
He's just starting pretty
Yeah.
quick. So
Yeah.
Jill and I should be getting everything onto NeoGov sometime this week, I believe.
So we'll talk about that down the road, but I just want to kind of give you guys a heads up of what's going on. And Ben's going to be spending a lot of time, getting a new employee in and training them. It takes them years to get, how long it take to get Jim out of college, Jim up to speed.
Well, we were still kind of getting him up to speed.
Yep.
I mean, it takes a couple of years just to get the nuances of everything.
Maybe there's another plant where a guy that's ready looking for a different job, huh?
Well, that's kind of what we're hoping for, but there's also a new program, almost like an electrician, where they have an apprentice program. So let's say we can't find somebody out of college that meets our needs, that we think it's just not going to work with the potential hires. We can find somebody that doesn't have any training at all, but we pay for them to go to school plus work, basically work almost full time. I think they get like a day or 2 per week to go to like Northeast Wisconsin Technical College, where they have a wastewater program. We pay for that, but they're stuck with us for 5 years or however long it takes to pay for that program. And then hopefully, because they'd be a local person, they would be able to stick around and not go chasing money. But who knows?
That sounds like a good option.
Things to talk about. Yep.
Yeah, it's relatively new, so not many people have done it yet. So a lot of hurdles to go over. All right.
Okay, we went through your reports. Everything seems to be normal from what I can see.
How much you think we're going to save by recycling the water?
Well, by recycling the water, we can probably save at least 15 to 20,000 just in utility fees. Plus, once we can start taking in grease and all that stuff from outside the community, we could probably make almost, I don't know, $6,000 a year just taking in that waste. So you're looking at between 20 and 30,000, hopefully.
Good.
So hopefully the payoff will be fairly quick, like 10 years maybe. All right.
Okay, that takes care of 3 on 4.
Thank you.
All right. The next thing is review and act on creation of an ordinance to designate ATV, UTV routes in town.
So Mike, Chief and I will piggyback on this one. Chief's with us via Zoom. But some of the things we've been researching, and we've had many meetings, we've been talking about this, and we've been researching, what type of things legally can we do? Because there's been the question, about requiring driver's license, requiring age, requiring insurance. And if we have the capacity and the legality to do all that. So Chief reached out to the city attorney, which, like I said in my memo, reached out to the League of Wisconsin Municipalities regarding some of those questions. And in the league's opinion, they do not feel we have the authority legally to impose additional restrictions based on what the state statute is right now. The state statute does assign municipalities the authority to regulate time of day use, regulate time of year use, and a couple other things. But if we want to go beyond that, in their opinion, they don't think the municipality has the right to do that. They recognize that other communities are starting to do that, but they also feel that that's opening up the door for someone to go to court. I mean, if someone gets a ticket for a ATV or UTV citation that's based on local ordinance, there's a very good chance that could be going to a court to see how that plays out. But in their opinion right now, what they see based on what the state statute reads, they do not feel we have authority to make additional regulations like age, like requiring insurance, like requiring blinkers and stuff like that. And like I said in my memo, there's other considerations or other concerns because the ATVs, if you create a route, they are following the route laws. They are not following the rules of the road like a car would. So open intoxicant is a consideration, and there's other things that are out there. So I guess at this point in time, if Jeff wants to pipe in too, but we're of the opinion right now, just because of the lack of local control of what you guys can put on initial regulations, we're of the opinion right now, or making the recommendation that you guys take the stance, no, do not create an ordinance for ATV usage in the city. And then down the road, if the state law changes to a point where it does allow you to make additional regulations, or the state law changes to make regulations that appease what we would like to see, at that point in time, you can revisit it. But at this point in time, that's what we're kind of
And
recommending.
we already allow them on the streets in the wintertime for plowing and stuff like that already. So
Jeff, do you want to comment on that one?
Yes, they're still allowed during wintertime, and it'll continue to be that way no matter what. That's a state law that allows that, so that will continue. Other than that, though, everything that Chad pretty much said sums it up pretty good. As far as the bottom line is that we have to go by what the state law is right now, and that there is no home rule on much of anything other than maybe where we can set up the routes, time of day, time of year, that sort of thing. But it does free up a lot of things that they would not have to follow the rules of the road completely with if we do make all these routes.
So what does that mean? They're allowed to ride or not in town?
You guys need to make the determination, and we're basically saying, you guys have been talking about this for months now. Let's kind of make a vote. We're asking you to kind of make a vote right now. Do you guys feel that you want to go with ATV routes? And then at that point, you guys can regulate time of day use, time of year use, and what streets you want, or take a vote right now and say, you know what, we're going to pass on it, and maybe down the road, you'll revisit it if things change down the road. So
I'd like to add a little bit here. I am for the ATV routes. I think we need to figure out how to go about making this happen and bringing New London to the next step, and maybe pioneering some things and creating opportunities for businesses to come to New London for other reasons and open up for some of this stuff, and for bringing some of our surrounding communities, giving them a place to go while they're out traveling. So I've reached out to the mayor in Winneconne, asked what their ups and downs were. I forwarded that email to all the aldermen, whether or not they've handed it out to the committee, I do not know. But he said that they only have had, the police have only had one incident with a rider. Other than that, in the last year or so that they've had no problems with their ordinance. Reached out to WAPACA. They said they have had zero problems. They opened up all their roads except for the one main street. The town of Muckwa, he just contacted me. They will be implementing an ordinance this month in their township as well. Township of Hortonia is still reaching out to me. And from what I understand, I presume that they will be having something in the near future as well. I just see this coming around in fold. I've traveled the state, and more places are doing this. Whether or not what route we take on getting it, I really strongly think that we should take it as a trial at some point in some shape and form. I know, I vacation up in Kashina. They have open roads Um, I just, I don't know why we're sketchy about going forth with it. I understand some of the concerns. But I also see the future of this coming at us, and I rather, for the sake of New London, start a process and try to bring in new people to start businesses, small businesses within our town, rather than wait and all of our surrounding communities already have it, and then that's where the small businesses have started, and we don't draw anything else to New London. That's my take on it. I really strongly suggest, in my opinion, that we figure out how to set up a trial period at the very least. That's my input.
I would follow the chief's recommend. I'd make a motion that the city does not look at creating ATV, UTV routes within the city limits at this time till we get more guidance.
I'll second that motion. My feelings are, we're talking places a lot smaller in New London, for one thing. We're talking, Outagamie County is saying no. We do not have any trails near New London. It, to me, is gonna bring people in. All I see myself is people in the city running around.
Wapaka has two streets they said you can't be on. Fulton Street, which is their main north-south, and Main Street. Other than that, Wapaka's got them around. And they have a lot more traffic in the summer than we do here because of the lakes.
I would have to disagree with that. You've got 10,000 people on this street out in front of us.
Okay, well.
If you can show me 10,000 people on a street that they are using for RTVs in Wapaka, I would listen to you. I cannot see how we can travel north and south with Pearl Street, with Shawano Street, with Division.
We have one of the two streets, Shawano or Pearl. I mean, if we could move forward and try to create something.
Why can't we have some sort of trial period? I mean,
You're not going to have that much traffic on the road. It's not going to
you can
be,
stop them just as fast as you allowed them if they,
everybody ain't
everybody's
gonna run
got the
out there.
boom. Go ahead, Mark. I'll finish when you're done.
Everybody's not going to run out there buying,
Done already?
going to have an influx because the people that are driving the ATVs, the four UTVs,
Well,
are not going to be driving cars. So that traffic's going to be taken away. Is what I'm
I
saying.
understand
We're
the
not-
point. Everybody's looking at the doom and gloom part of it, but that's a small fraction that you'd have any problems. And with other cities reaching out and telling us they've only had one problem in 3 years, I don't see why we couldn't at least come some way of having at least a trial. If you have issues, shut them back down. It's their own fault, right?
Correct.
I don't see why we couldn't try something.
Just from my past, from my experience is that if you create a law, it is much more difficult to restrict it at a later time or to change it or to go backwards. That's why our main recommendation is let's see where the state goes with this, not necessarily ruling it out as much as it is that, hey, we don't want to be the first ones to get sued. And second of all, do we really want to open it up to, like we said, the person with no driver's license with open intoxicants, he could be a 0.07, where if he was driving a car with the same rules, he would be revoked. He would have open intoxicants. He'd be cited for OWI at 0.02 and so on and so forth. But that's what we're just saying is that instead of pushing this through right now, if the state wants the ATVs, UTVs to open up in the future, hopefully they give us a little bit more home rule and allow us to kind of dictate what happens in the city of New London.
Any further discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. I guess we go ahead and vote.
So the motion right now, make sure we get it right, that Bob made was to not create an ordinance at this time, correct?
Yes. at this
So if
time.
you vote yes right now, you are voting not to create the ordinance and not to allow ATV usage at this time, correct? Okay. If you vote no, you're saying, nope, we're not going to look at that, and then it opens back up for other discussion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Oh,
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so Fred, Dave, Tom, right?
what, Mike,
I can't vote.
Mike,
Yeah, you can vote.
Vote.
You can vote.
Mike Finch voted.
No.
So it's 4-0.
So Fred, and then Mike, you voted no, correct?
Yes. I mean, no, yes.
Is it
Yes, no.
correct?
We marked it also.
Two.
Mark can't vote,
Mayor could vote and come.
only in case of a tie. Is my understanding. I might be wrong.
So right now you have 4 no's, right? Correct? And then 2 yeses. So that dies.
So we go back into discussion, whatever we can do.
Correct. Motion died right there. So that if you guys want to proceed, now the question is, what you can regulate is what roads, time of day, time of year.
That's it.
I'm in favor of everything, is what the state allows us for a trial period to reassess on the basis of needs. If we have complaints, to bring the complaints to the next committee meetings for a 1-year trial period.
How long is the trial period?
We can make the trial period forever, whatever your concern is. My suggestion is to do it as a 1-year trial period with an updated basis on every meeting. Bring your questions and concerns, and let's develop this as far as what state allows us to do.
Mayor, it'd be my understanding that if we create an ordinance like this, it will be permanent unless at a later time you rescind that.
So at a later time, we could rescind it if things weren't going right.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask Chief to see if
Correct.
he's had anything. You haven't seen a sunset clause on an ordinance. I've never seen that.
No,
Okay.
I've never seen that. So I think once it's created, it's created.
Okay.
Till you rescind it. You go
We'd have
through
to
a
have another
process.
vote
to-
to rescind it. No, it's not a sunset.
What would be the process to that?
It would be pretty much the same process as creating it. So then what we'd end up having to do is go back through the same process to eliminate it at a later time.
So that's basically exactly it. I mean, as far as committee goes, I would say, let's give it a 1-year trial for the committee and make a decision based on that, whether or not we're going to move forward or rescind it.
It would have to be someone that voted against it to rescind it.
Trust me, if there's a lot of problems, I will be voting back against it.
So for the committee to move forward, we would have to bring you the ordinance, the draft ordinance would just mimic state law, what that would be. But then how do you guys want to go about, and maybe Jeff could pipe in too, what's your feelings on what roads or time of day, time of year restrictions, if any?
Kind of what I've seen throughout the state. I've checked around, some of the cities are not allowing it. For example, during the winter months, of course, they're still allowed to plow and everything. But because of the size of the snowbanks and stuff, and those vehicles sitting a little bit lower, some of them, they don't allow it. They also, some of the places will allow it from, for example, 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night. There's been a lot of restrictions on which roads. What we've seen and looked at throughout the city here is a majority of our accidents, for example, are on our county highways. which of course is Business 45 coming through town, which would be Mill Street, down through downtown and out on Shawano Street. We have Highway X that goes out of the city. Of course, everyone knows that is Highway W, which goes past the high school. Highway D, which is Division Street. So we'd have to look at, do we want all the roads opened up, or do we want to look at some of the safety aspects of, which roads should we potentially eliminate? One that I would find most dangerous in our city, of course, is Business 45, which includes Shawano Street, especially where it goes from 4 lanes to 2 lanes. And also at that intersection of 45 or at Shawano and 54, we have had a lot of accidents in the past with vehicles there, which could potentially make it a dangerous intersection with the ATVs and UTVs.
Chief, I can support that as well. The only input I have on that is the people that I did talk to that do have this ordinance said they had more problems when there was restrictions on the roads for the fact that people were unaware or they're on a road that they weren't supposed to be, creating a violation. Like I said, I do agree with your concerns there. I just wanted to say that, like, Wapaka does have their, Fred, you said 2. I thought it was only 1.
Fulton and Main Street, Mayor.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, keeping the restrictions to a minimum at least, or taking into consideration them as violations in it. So I do
54 coming in.
I do agree with the high traffic areas like that. Definitely have to be looked at. That's all.
I also wanted to make sure that, this is a privilege for people to do this. And as I had mentioned before about the signage, was hoping that the ATV club could pay for the signage just because of the fact that, that's a right or a privilege, not a right. And it's costing the taxpayer, people that don't have ATVs or can't afford ATV or UTVs can't use that. So I was hoping that we could make that a stipulation.
Mike, I'm not sure if Miss Krabby's in the audience today. I have talked to them on several occasions and they have budgeted for it. And they are more than willing to help out. I can't put them on the hook for what their commitment was, but they are very interested in helping out in signage.
Thank you.
I could say maybe like the chief mentioned, Highway 45 through the city. I could see putting an exception where they can't have traffic on route US 45 through the city. That's kind of similar to what they have in Wapaka on Fulton Street, which is their main drag, and I believe might be Business Highway 1049, 54 all in one. So I would say we could put it together with a restriction that no ATV traffic on US Highway 45 as it goes through the city, which would take Mill Street, Shawano Street.
North Water.
Yeah, but you could go on Pearl Street. We're restricted to one bridge.
Right, because we need one bridge.
Hmm.
We need at least one bridge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, maybe the way to make it easiest is for maybe it's myself and Chad to maybe meet with 1 or 2 people on your committee. We can put something together, run it past you. Kind of the process from there is typically we'd send it over to the city attorney. He would review it and then it would be brought back to you. I guess what we'd probably do is probably mirror it pretty close to, from what I've been told, is Platteville, Rhinelander, and Antigo. Those 3 cities are approximately the size of ours. They're the only, every other city is smaller than ours that has an ordinance cross state, from what I'm being told from the DNR. So I guess what I would probably do is kind of mirror some of those, but a couple of those do have a few clauses in them that deal with just city ordinances that they put them in. So we would remove that portion of it and just follow state law, if that would be a good way to proceed.
Well, I think we should get together and try to put something together,
Mhm.
bring it back to committee.
So do you guys want to pick 2 people and mayor? I don't know if you want to be involved in that, just a kind of a small little group.
Absolutely.
I'd be on there
Thank you.
with the mayor and whoever else wants to be on there. Dave?
It's up to the chairman.
Huh?
It's up to the chairman to kind of designate that.
Oh, Miss Chairman Barrington.
I think we can put together a committee and try it.
Yeah.
I would say probably people we need on the committee is Chad, chief of police. One of you 2 people, if you want me to be on it, fine.
I think it'd be a good balance just because of what people voted, both ways, both concerns. I think that'd be a good balance, pros and cons both ways. All right, we'll do that and bring something
Move
back
on.
next month, probably.
I'll start working on it next week, Chad, and then I'll get something over to you, and then we'll set up a meeting and kind of go from there if that works for you.
Okay, chief.
Sounds good.
Okay, next item is to recommend the execution of a state municipal agreement for the 2020 to 2025 STP Urban Grant Program. This, I believe, is for North Water Street. Am I right?
Correct. So this is the North Water Street grant. This is locking us in. The state awarded us agreement and the state awarded us the grant, the STB Urban Grant. This agreement says we accept the grant and we will abide by all the little hoops that we got to jump through to make it happen. So for the project, so I'm recommending that the committee follows through in accepting the agreement and sending that on to council so that we can officially accept the grant and move forward with the project, which is scheduled for 2024. And this is for the North Water Street segment from Shawano to Pearl Street. This is the $2.9 million grant that we're getting.
Ooh. Do it right away.
Yeah, it was gonna cost you probably 4 million.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Does that include engineering?
No, it only includes the construction of roadway, lights, storm sewers. It does not include, the grant does not include sanitary sewers or water. This STP Urban Grant is a transportation grant, so it's not including as more of a utility grant for the storm sewer, sorry, the sanitary sewer and the water. It's more for transportation purposes, which roadway, signage, lights, street stop and go lights, storm water management is included in that. And those are the things that are eligible for this grant.
That means we gotta pay for the engineering?
Yes.
So Chad, I'm looking at the summary cost. Is that what we're on the hook for?
I'd have to look at that specifically again. Where's my?
Keep going. Yeah, right there.
So yes, so the overall project right now is estimated at the 3.7. This does not include initial engineering. This only includes the project construction, 3.7. The federal is going to pay 2.9 of that, which is eligible. And then we're on the hook for 759,000. So it's 80% federal funded, 20% local funded project. So
So I'm new to this. So even if if the price goes up, the Fed still pays 80%?
no, they paid 2.9 million cap.
Okay.
So that's a good point right there. That's and our engineers, when we submitted the program, they bumped it up, hopefully enough to understand that. So yeah, and that's part of the reason why they have you sign this agreement. So you know that going into it, we're going to pay up to 2.9, which is eligible cost. But if something comes up, yeah, you guys are on the hook for the remaining amounts. But overall, a 20% match, that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah,
That's
they're good.
something you don't want to turn away.
Can't turn away at 2.9 million.
No, not at all.
basically, we've got to start doing something with the street utilities. I mean,
Anything in the tip on that?
What's that?
Was there anything for a tip on that?
A what?
A tip district?
Not for this one.
No?
Nope, nope. Yeah, this would not be eligible for, or this wouldn't be a TIF program. This is a grant.
I make a motion, we proceed and execute that agreement for the 2025 project,
Second.
state municipal agreement.
Second.
motion made and seconded to proceed with this grant, to accept this grant. Any further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The next item I see is discussion about cost sharing improvements for Elkan Road with the town of Liberty.
And this is more of a general discussion. Where do you guys want to go with this? So I think I put a map in there as well, if I wasn't mistaken in my memo. Let me-
This is really a tacky road.
So basically, the town of Liberty has asked us to cost share improvements to Alcan Road, and this would be from House Road to Basswood Lane right here, so this section. And what they're saying is, and if you go out there and look at it, you can't disagree with it, that this section of road right here is beat up a little bit more than going farther to the east. And the concern was that a lot of the heavy truck traffic coming through Eastridge, instead of turning around going back to House Road, they were just making the loop and coming down Basswood and coming on through. And I have to admit, the one day that I met Tom out there, we talked about this, there were trucks coming right through Alcan doing exactly what he said. And it's posted right here, no trucks, and it's posted right there, no trucks. And you know what signs do. I mean, people don't, abide by them. Police department knows they've been patrolling that as best they can, but in the end, the road is beat up a little bit. Not admitting that it's because of that or not, but it just physically is. So they're asking for a cost share of doing a smear patch, which is not like a major fix. It's a Band-Aid. It's basically taking an asphalt overlay and just smearing it over the top. You've seen it on other town roads. They do that quite often as a temporary maintenance fix.
That when they put the pea gravel in it, when they put it on it?
Not in this case. Nope. This is just basically, we did this with Liberty either last year or the year before. If you go down House Road right here, if you go from here to the north, we did that same thing. We cost shared with them for a smear patch that the county, Outagamie County Highway Department did. So it's a low cost situation. However, we've had, the committee and Alderman have had the discussions, and we've had the townships coming in wanting to cost share, which is a good thing, but that takes away from the committee and the council and the department from focusing on the internal streets. That just takes away from that. I told Tom that I don't have it budgeted this year because we've got our budgets kind of set. He was wondering if we could figure something out that maybe they do it and we pay them back next year for the cost of what our share would be. I guess it's more so a thought for you guys of how do you want to proceed? Do you guys want to proceed with a project like this? Or not? We can
some
move
of
some.
my thoughts are just the fact that Alcan Road is not used by many city people compared to like House Road, which is used by a lot of city people, but Alcan is not very highly traveled by city, city people, in my opinion. And also Romanesco should be the ones paying for the repairs if they're the ones that did all the damage to the road. That's just some thoughts.
And part of that road is our road. So I don't know if you guys could pick up on that. Like the sections here and here, we own half of that road because it's touching city property. The areas in
Oh, I
white
see.
are township. The areas that are more colorized, that's city, in the city limits. So yeah, this is city limits and this is city limits on Alcan on our side. So technically we own the maintenance for those roads, those sections anyway.
Would that be half of the road on that section then, or?
Technically, we own half the road. I don't know, Mike, if you can see this, but
Yep, I can see it.
technically half the road here and half the road here is city limits.
So maybe we should only give them 60% of half because we don't own half of the half.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So the quote that they got was what, $14,000, I think I had in my number. And then if we split, obviously that'd be 7,000 our share. I think right now, if you guys are interested, I would go back to Judy. If you guys want to say yes, I'd go back to Judy first and say, okay, how are we gonna fit this in, whether it's this year or next year? If you guys nod your head, I'm not saying you have to take an official vote right now, but I'm saying if you nod your head, I would go back and figure out the finances of it. I just want to kind of bring it to your attention that that was a request from
I don't
one of our
know,
neighboring
it
towns.
Should be a big fight. I mean, keep the peace with
Keep peace in the,
liberty and everybody.
yeah, keep peace in the community.
What do you think, Dave?
What's my opinion?
Mike?
I think we might be partially to blame for some of the damage. I am one that I have been saying for the last couple of years that I would like to see more street work done in the city. But in this case, it's that subdivision is ours, so we didn't cause the damage, but the damage was caused by trucks from our subdivision, so. But I, myself, am gonna start saying, pretty soon we start saying no, because we've asked a couple times for cost sharing with other streets, with the county, with some of these townships, and the first thing we hear is, we don't have the budget. You people do it, and I want to see more streets in town done. In this case, I could probably go with this one, but I am going to say the next one that comes in, I am going to be very much concerned.
Yeah, I don't know if you read in my memo, but Lou committed us to next year. I don't know if you guys read that.
Yeah, Hinsky Road.
Yeah, Hinsky Road. Town of Maple Creek, cost share Hinsky Road next year for 45,000. So Lou came up to me, I don't remember when it was. It was before the first of the year, and he said, here, put this in your budget for next year, because we're gonna look at cost sharing with Town of Maple Creek for Hinsky Road. I'm like, okay. And then we talked about it. That was kind of in the notes. Remember I think it was February, we brought the 5-year plan together forward. And that was in that 5-year plan that we talked about, so.
So why don't we consider Mike Pinch's offer of like half of the half or even 3/4 of the half at $4,500 or $5,400 to throw them a bone to say just the same thing of keeping the peace but still being able to retract and be able to do some of our local roads. I think that would also keep some of the citizens happy too, knowing that we're not continuing to throw money out there, but we can still provide help. Because I do agree with what you said, Mr. Barrington. But just take in consideration with what Mr. Pinch had to say as well.
And those people in that area out in Eastridge, they feel like they're left out anyway, because that's one of the last places that gets plowed. So now by denying this to happen out there, you're almost telling them, we don't care about you guys out there.
I understand now. Okay.
We're not denying that for that to happen. We're just paying for our portion. Our portion ain't 50% on that road. Our portion is 66% of 50% because Liberty still owns that big block right in the middle, which means they own that whole road. We only have to pay for half on that green side, on that side, and that side. That middle portion is all theirs. So what Mike is suggesting is that we don't pay the full
Yeah, I see what he's
7,000.
suggesting.
It's,
That would be,
Kind
that
of
would-
just
that's
figure-
us.
nitpicking though,
Huh?
kind of nitpicking by doing that, I think.
No, it's showing that we're not just,
Okay, so half the road, they do their half and we leave the other half not done?
no, we're just not paying a full 50%.
Yeah, but you're saying that the centerpiece we shouldn't pay for. So
No,
if they do their half of the centerpiece, we don't do our half, it stays like that. Then.
they're responsible for that road in the center. We're not.
Bob,
That's their
what,
road.
with what's being said though, like Mr. Barrington had said, in the future with further askings, we're gonna deny them altogether. Or that's where he was suggesting is that we deny them altogether in the future instead of offering a portion or trying to work forward into something.
I just figured it out on our map at work, and we own about 59.5% of that part right there.
59?
59.5%. I have a measuring tool on my map,
59.5.
figured it out quick.
We own 60%. Then you're saying we should pay 60% or 50%?
Ouch.
Right.
Pay 60% of the,
Okay.
So their offer was to go 50-50. I guess you guys couldn't
It's pretty close.
counter and say,
We
hey, we'll do whatever our percentage is, of that.
Could try it.
It's up to you guys. I mean,
That's pretty trivial.
That's what I think too.
Hey,
I think we're gonna make
Jeez.
enemies out of,
Lord,
out of
50/50,
somebody
One
for that,
at a time, please. Paul.
for that much money. I think we're gonna make enemies out of them for $7,000. How much of a street can we do in town anyway?
Agree with you 100%, Bob.
I mean, I don't like doing it for somebody else either, but I just think that it's been.
if this was a traditional pairing of projects, yes, I'd say we would go the percentage, 100%, not 100%, but we would look at what the percentage of, what we own, what they own, and split it accordingly of those percentages. In this case, he was saying it's our subdevelopment, which caused more of the city subdevelopment, which caused more of the damage to increase the maintenance cost of that road. So, like the up here, the Penske Road, I think that was set up per actually what the percentage of ownership is. In this case, if you guys want, we can go back and say, oh, we'll pay for what the percentage of ownership is and go for there. But like you said, does it get kind of trivial at that point for several $1,000s?
Somebody want to make a motion, how much we want to pay?
I make a motion, we accept that proposal at 50/50.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
All right,
I,
Opposed? Motion carried.
I will work with Judy to see what the finances are, whether we pay it this year or work something out to pay to next year's budget, to be determined if that's okay. But I'll kind of figure that out with Judy then.
They could find them trucks that are driving on the road, or they could probably get the
Yeah.
$7,000.
that's right.
Exactly.
Is that in the London Police Department or the gaming?
Well, we've been sending our police department out there. Yep. So,
Next item I see is director's report.
let's see here. I don't think I had too much exciting stuff to report on. Actually, Michelle, did my report get cut off?
You talking about that speed limit?
No, I thought I had in there my report for, that must have got cut off.
I wonder when you put that map in.
Yeah, I must have cut that off. So, I don't even know who the anniversaries were for this month, if we had any. I don't think we had any anniversaries this month, if I remember right. So, but other than that, no, I don't think we had any. So, but other than that, it's just been a really busy month. Crews are working on starting to get crack filling going. They're working on the painting of crosswalks, and that's starting to get going for the season. Had a lot of sinkholes from a lot of those big rains that we had, and I kind of reported on in my weekly staff notes. Oshkosh and Cook, I think it was, we had a couple sinkholes, and then over in Jennings we had sinkholes, and on Cedar Hirsch we had sinkholes. So we've been chasing those around just because of some big rains that have been going on. So we've been working on that as well. But other than that, it's just been like the normal things going on in Public Works and streets and the wastewater treatment plant side. So that's it.
How are we coming on tree grinding?
Guys are out there plugging away. The new machine is, I mean, Bob has seen it. I think Mike has seen
I
it
went
too.
out when they were doing it in Hatton Park.
Yep. So they've been plugging away. We had well over 300 to go. I don't know how far we got so far,
Yeah, I haven't been out to the cemetery.
but they should be, they're keeping track of the man hours and the equipment hours, because what we're going to do is recoup some of that cost for that DNR grant that we have. And that'll help recoup some of the costs for the purchase of the stump grinder, which will be nice. So, and we did have the DTAC who had the low bid. They did they did tub grind the brush behind the stadium. I'm not sure how far they are over by Floral Hill. They were going to move their equipment over there. I'm not sure if they got over there yet to start, but
Yeah,
sounds like they got all the stuff tub grind over behind the stadium already. And they're working on the next phase of that. So, and 2 out of the 3 piles there were eligible to be reimbursed by that DNR, catastrophic DNR grant that we got.
okay, it's just.
2 out of the 3
Oh,
piles.
it's out of the 3 piles.
And those were the piles that were collected basically from last year's storm. So the stuff that was collected like this year, that was on our general bill, you know, for our normal cleanup.
Did any of that stuff go on to FEMA?
No, because we took the DNR grant money for that, because there was an easier, less hoops to jump through.
Quicker? Yeah, okay.
A lot less hoops to jump through in
Yeah.
the DNR grant than the FEMA situation. And if you didn't see it in my notes, I did get a call from FEMA
Approved, we
like
gotta wait.
2 weeks ago that we are done with FEMA. They congratulate us for going through the process, and they're like, "You guys are done with us, great, yeah." You know, the balloons went off. And they have submitted all the funding that we're eligible for. All that money has gone to the state, because it goes to the state first and then comes to us. So we've gotten 2 checks already, the smaller 2 checks we've gotten. And the bigger check is sitting there, and we have like 15 trees we have to take down yet. That was included in that cost. So once we get those 15 trees down, we can submit those man hours and the equipment hours for those 15 trees to be in this lump sum of that category. And then that should be approved, and that's the big one. That's the one from over $200,000 we approved. So we're not done with the process. It's just that we're done with FEMA, and the remaining part of it goes to Wisconsin Emergency Management to finish up. So it only took a year for all that.
Good.
Okay, anything somebody got to put on next month's agenda?
We'll bring back the ATV route ordinance, and I can't think of anything else. One of these days, once we get well, I don't know if we'll wait now, but I want to take a tour of the treatment plant upgrades.
I think that'd be a good idea.
But I don't know if we'll wait until, we'll see. I'll talk to Ben once to see if it's worth it to do it now. We'll wait till it cools off a little bit. I don't want to go there when it's 90. There's no air conditioner in the digester building.
Anything else to be brought up?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, please. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried, we're adjourned.